Padre Pio is surrounded by a dense fog of supernatural claims, but when subjected to rigorous historical scrutiny, many of the most famous stories, like reports of him flying over World War II battlefields or reading souls on demand, evaporate into single-witness folklore, and the Catholic Church itself agrees. When it came time to officially recognize him as a saint, Rome made a deliberate choice to bypass his famous stigmata and lifetime marvels entirely. To build the foundation of his modern legacy, the Curia demanded strict medical data. They required cases of posthumous healing that survived exhaustive clinical review. This graphic represents our analytical starting point, a perfectly balanced 50-50 split between a natural explanation and supernatural intercession. By applying this rigid, mathematically neutral framework to the two medical cases the Vatican actually used, we can remove devotional bias and see if Rome's decision holds up to the numbers. The first test case is from November 1995. A 46-year-old woman named Consiglia de Martino arrived at the hospital with a massive, rapidly expanding fluid mass in her neck. CT scans confirmed a ruptured thoracic duct, leaking an estimated 2 liters of lymphatic fluid. Surgery was scheduled immediately, but the next morning, without any medication, drainage, or operative intervention, the mass had entirely vanished. To weight the evidence naturally, we have to look at the clinical baseline. Medical literature shows that up to 50% of traumatic chyle leaks resolve spontaneously under conservative management. The Vatican's own medical consultation board acknowledged the space rate. They officially classified the event as a miraculum quod modum, explicitly noting that the recovery itself was biologically possible. The true anomaly was the overnight speed without any treatment. Our diagram returns to weigh these factors. The imaging-confirmed rapid resolution pulls the needle upward, but the high natural vase rate holds it back. The probability for this specific case locks in at 65% supernatural. A 65% outcome is undeniably unusual, but on its own, it leaves too much room for a natural, physiological anomaly to prove definitive intercession. The second case moves to January 2000. 7-year-old Matteo Colella contracted fulminant meningococcal meningitis. He quickly progressed into a deep coma with septic shock, and his major organ systems began failing. As his condition deteriorated, his mother held a vigil right down the street and prayed the rosary at Padre Pio's tomb. Days later, Matteo woke up. He spontaneously reported a vision of an old man with a white beard pulling him to his feet, and later identified the figure from a photograph. Following his awakening, the boy made a rapid recovery with 0 neurological or physical impairments. But severe attribution problems exist. Matteo was treated in a highly resourced modern pediatric ICU. With aggressive management, like plasma exchange, survival for previously healthy children with this exact condition can reach 91%. There is also a thick layer of institutional entanglement here. The hospital treating him was founded by Padre Pio. The boy's father was a staff physician there, and the family was deeply devoted to the friar, ensuring total cultural saturation for the boy's vision. Looking at the scale for Matteo's case, the complete absence of physical damage after a severe coma pushes the probability up. However, the aggressive concurrent ICU care caps the final posterior at 60%. Just like the first case, when viewed in isolation, a 60% probability reflects a remarkable medical outcome, but the high success rate of modern intensive care leaves a wide path for a strictly natural recovery. If we stop here, analyzing claims one by one, the case for Padre Pio feels stalled in the mid-60s. But the true evidentiary picture requires looking at the aggregate reality of all 11 claims investigated in our full report. To evaluate this mathematically, we use a rule called conjunctive improbability. We want to find the exact statistical chance that every single one of these anomalies has a perfectly natural explanation. This table lists all 11 events. By multiplying the probability of a natural cause for the first case by the second and continuing straight down the list, the compounding math reveals a final natural probability of just 0.045%, which means the inverse mathematical truth, the probability that at least one of these claims is a genuine supernatural event, soars to 99.95%. Even if we strip away the weaker folklore and restrict the math to only the 3 highest quality, best documented cases, the cumulative probability still holds firmly at 94.7%. And if we strictly isolate the data to just the 2 Vatican-certified posthumous healings, the probability of at least one genuine supernatural event remains a robust 86%. Modest, independent probabilities do not cancel each other out, they multiply. Across varying medical conditions, different decades, and completely distinct sets of witnesses, the conjunctive improbability accumulates so rapidly that it shifts the statistical burden of proof squarely onto the skeptic. The goal of Bayesian analysis is never absolute, infallible certainty. It is about calibrating the weight of the available evidence. What the math ultimately reveals is that the Vatican's institutional caution was correct. They actively discarded the noisy folklore and built their case entirely on the isolated medical anomalies. That rigorous, decades-long filtering process culminated in June 2002 with his formal canonization in St. Peter's Square. Pope John Paul II, who had personally navigated this evidence for decades, issued the final decree before one of the largest crowds in Roman history. In the end, Rome canonized Padre Pio on the strength of his posthumous medical anomalies, passing over the stigmata and the lifetime marvels entirely. That specific, deliberate choice remains the wisest, most scientifically sound summary of where the evidence actually points.